Okay, forget.
I would really rather sit over there so I can just kind of look at the people in the audience. You too? Okay, we're gonna move.
I guess there's two things. You got Yankees of the word and
No, you are correct.
George's mic does not work.
Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Skokie Village Board for Monday, December the 18th, 2023. This evening, we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by our village clerk, Pramod Shah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The meeting will come to order, and the clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Sutker,
Here.
Trustee Robinson,
Here.
Trustee Kuhn,
Here.
Trustee Johnson,
Here.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Here.
Trustee Klein,
Here.
Mayor Windusen.
Here, we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda for this evening's meeting. A motion is in order. Trustee Pierce Slovan, seconded by Trustee Johnson. Is there anything on the consent agenda anybody wants to move? Yes.
I just want to remove the section of item 4 related to the approval of our closed session minutes.
Okay. Is there anything else? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson, Trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Aye.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
Trustee Klein, Mayor Windusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
For this item about our closed session minutes, I just want to say I'm really glad that we're going to fully comply with the AG's recent binding determination about our open meetings violations. I do want to ask, I think we still need to figure out what we're going to do to correctly approve our closed session minutes from before June. And I think there's this lingering question of how we are going to approve our closed session minutes moving forward. So let me ask, how are we going to retroactively approve our closed session minutes from before June?
The AG didn't comment on that, so I think we have to assume that everything is in compliance up to the meeting in the question about the June 5th. The Attorney General has not opined on anything before that. It is something that the municipalities are in fact looking into. I was talking to an attorney recently who has several municipalities, and it seems to be the consensus that going forward, the Attorney General's opinion is the precedent. But up until then, there is no consensus. So we will probably second meeting of January or one of the meetings in February take up the closed session minutes. And at that point, I think maybe we'll have a clearer idea of the implications of the Attorney General's decision.
Okay. During that closed session, I really hope that we can have a good discussion as a board about how we're going to approve closed session minutes moving forward, just so we can have a better process.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a proclamation, in a sense honoring and also hopefully calling attention to the good work that our township is doing with its food pantry. And I would like to read the proclamation. I think it's self-explanatory. Whereas the Niles Township Food Pantry initially started out in the basement of the Niles Township building at 5255 Lincoln in Skokie, with a shelf containing some canned goods, just in case someone was in need. It then grew to the back room of the township's building with one full-time employee. And whereas in 2009, in the midst of the Great Recession, Niles Township reestablished the food pantry in their annex building at 8341 Lockwood, the former site of a daycare facility. And whereas in 2022, the food pantry served some 3,000 separate households, about 8% of all households in Niles Township, as many families rely on the pantry on a regular basis, and even more so during these difficult times. In 2022, the pantry distributed just under 1.7 million pounds of food, where about half of all households in our coverage area use food stamps. And whereas there continues to be a profound demand for emergency food due to multiple factors leading to a challenging economy and to the demand to operate food banks, like the Niles Township Food Bank, is all the more critical than ever. And whereas the pantry continues to provide meaningful volunteer service and in-pantry shopping for those who are food insecure, and whereas the Niles Township Food Pantry Foundation is collecting monetary donations this year to purchase holiday gift cards so children from families in need can enjoy the upcoming holidays. And in 2022, more than 1,000 children were able to receive gifts because of this drive. And whereas the food pantry is run and supported by the Niles Township government, and whereas food and other services provided to food pantry clients are paid for out of the Niles Township Food Pantry Foundation, a 501c3 charitable corporation. Now therefore I, George Van Dusen, Mayor of the Village of Skokie, do hereby proclaim the month of December 2023 as Niles Township Food Pantry Awareness Month. And in the Village of Skokie, urge all residents to support the efforts of the Food Pantry Foundation by making a monetary donation to the Food Pantry Holiday Gift Card Drive, and by donating, whenever possible, toiletry items and non-perishable food goods. And I'd like to introduce Trustee Mark Collins of the Township, who's a moving force behind the food pantry, and Mike Isaacs, who is also an administrator with the Township.
I've been asked to say a couple of words, and I always have a couple of words. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Collins. I am representing you as trustee of Niles Township government, and the food pantry is my baby, and it has been for over 14 years. And I find myself getting emotional every time I'm talking about it because it is my food pantry in our village. Our village is in great need. You may not see it, but your neighbor may be visiting our food pantry. Somebody down the street definitely is visiting our food pantry. And there's hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people in our village that are visiting our food pantry. There's a million stories at the food pantry, and I could share them all, but the one that strikes me the most was seeing a woman in line with 2 kids, and people were complaining about the smell coming from her kids. Well, in short order, we took her, and she said she didn't have any diapers or anything. We happened to have a couple of diapers, and we took her into another room. And we noticed that she had diapered her children in garbage bags and toilet paper. Garbage bags and toilet paper. That exists. That is out there. There's a million other stories that I could tell you too that would put a smile on everybody's face in here. The camaraderie there. The people that I see that go to our food pantry, who I see on the street, and they say thank you. Who I see at a grocery store, and they say thank you. And when they're thanking me, they're thanking you. Because there's a proverb, it takes a village. And you folks in this village, all of you, have stood up and taken care of our own. And beyond that, you have taken care of people during pandemic who don't even live here. We did it. So I call it my food pantry. I want you all to call it my food pantry yourself. If you give me 1 can, if you give me $1, that's 1 more than I had before. And we take care of our own. So thank you folks for all that you have done up here. I appreciate every last one of you, and I appreciate all of you, because it does take a village. We are the village. We are neighbors. We are we. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would also like to just bring to everybody's attention, this past week, the village received a very noteworthy award by an environmental group and by the Metro Mayor's Caucus. Out of 275 municipalities, Skokie was one of 10 that was honored for its work in electrical vehicle readiness. And I want to single out Max Slankard, who is our Director of Public Works, our Village Manager, John Lockerbie, and particularly Eric Sanchez, our Transportation Engineer, Elizabeth Zimmerman, who is our Assistant to the Public Works Director, Brad Maggi, the Operations Manager, and Lisa Sanzenbacher, our Sustainability Coordinator, for all of the hard work and dedication it took for them to bring attention to this, a very important subject. As many of you may be aware, we've passed an 8-year sustainability program, and awards like this recognize that we are moving forward with that program. And I want to thank the staff for the tremendous effort it took. We're just now beginning to look at electricity in our vehicles. And it's good to know that our staff is on the cutting edge of being an example for all these other municipalities within the Metro Mayor's Caucus for everything that they've done. So, John, please convey our congratulations to the staff and thank them for their good efforts.
Will do. Thank you very much.
And I'm sure that's why everybody is here this evening. The next item on the agenda is a report of our Plan Commission. Paul Luke, Chairman, with Johanna Knighton. Paul, just give me 1 second. Just so everybody is aware, Mr. Luke will deliver the Plan Commission's report with its recommendations. Then I will call on the petitioner to make a presentation. After that, anybody who wishes to comment will be given 3 minutes to come to the podium and to address your concerns, whether it is in favor, whether it's in opposition, or want to suggest modifications to the program that's being suggested this evening. After that, the village board will then take a vote. So Mr. Luke will deliver his report. I will ask for a motion, and once we have a motion on the subdivision, or the zoning map amendment would be the first one, then the
Evening, Mayor,
board
members
will
of the
ask
board.
questions.
Tonight, since we do have 3 cases tonight before the board, I'm going to present all 3 cases in my summary here. So, Lutz and Associates Number 1 LLC presented a request for a zoning map amendment in case 2023-15P, a subdivision request in case 2023-16P, and a site plan approval in case 2023-17P. At 2 meetings of the Plan Commission on August 3rd and September 7th to construct 68 townhome residences. In addition to the Plan Commission meeting, the petitioner met with the neighborhood at 3 separate meetings and attended the Appearance Commission and obtained a certificate of appropriateness. The property is 96,397 square feet of property located in an R4 multifamily in an R1 single-family district. The property is currently used as a private school. The property has frontage along Kenton and Kilpatrick Avenues and Main Street. The property is surrounded by both R4, R1, and R2 districts. Again, in case 2023, the petitioner is seeking to change the zoning half of the rear portion of the property containing land zoned as R1 to R4. The Plan Commission recommends unanimously by vote of 9 ayes that the zoning change be approved by the board. In case 2023, the petitioner is seeking a subdivision to re-subdivide 2 lots into 1 new lot and a dedicated portion of the right-of-way that is 33 feet by 165 feet to create a consistent 66-foot right-of-way along Kenton Avenue. The commission recommended unanimously on a vote of 9 ayes that this request be approved. In case 2023-17P, the petitioner is seeking a site plan approval to construct 68 townhomes, 158 surface parking spaces with stormwater detention at 4600 Main Street. The Plan Commission recommends the board by unanimous vote that this site plan be approved. In response to concerns regarding the building setbacks, the petitioner agreed to increase the rear setback from the required 30 feet to 40 feet. The front setback was increased from 25 feet from the required 20 feet. The petitioner also agreed to place deed restrictions on the parcel to restrict uses after rezoning R1 to R4. Specifically, this would not allow standalone parking as a principal use, assisted living services, skilled nursing facilities, and multifamily housing. Also, in support of affordable housing, the developer has agreed to the following village's draft of inclusionary housing ordinance. As you all recall, the project had started last year prior to the consideration of an inclusionary housing ordinance. The developer plans to make a payment in fee in lieu of 5% of the units at $150,000 each. This is approximately 3.4 units and is therefore a total of $450,000 in payment. The Plan Commission, during its September proceedings, recommended approving relief for the project because it would exceed the 65% permeability. Since that meeting, the developer has made additional modifications to the site plan and is no longer seeking relief from the 65% permeability requirement. I remind the board that all three separate cases have to be voted on separately. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gershon, do you wish to make some comments?
Well, it was working before we started. This was, of course, working 5 minutes before the board meeting started. I'll give it another couple seconds. We provided you with a copy of the PowerPoint because I get laughed at all the time by the fact that I never trust systems to work, so therefore I always bring hard copies. I'm going to start. Hopefully we'll be able to get this up and running, but if not, is it working now? Great, thank you. Again, our pleasure to be before this board. We get this to full screen. As he always does, the Plan Commission Chair has done a great job of giving a summary of the project. This project's rather unique. It started almost 2 years ago with the village. We've spent a lot of time with the properties, as you will see. Probably in my 35 plus years of practicing, has the greatest reductions in the project and greatest number of changes that have been worked out between the developer, the community, the Plan Commission, the Appearance Commission, and the staff. And we're very proud to be back before you today. With me today is the developer, Barry Seidel with Luz and Associates, Mike DeRuin, who's going to be presenting with me with Fitzgerald Associates, our architects, along with a number of his colleagues. And while he will not be presenting, Louis Abuna from KLOA, who I know you all know, in the event there are any questions about traffic or parking. There you go. Just some quick background on who's here with you today. A number of you have met or know Barry Seidel with Luz and Associates, but from the start of his business career decades ago, he has been a part of this community. His first business venture was a little hot dog joint called Corner Hut, which many of you know, and I remember at Oakton and Skokie Boulevard. And all the way from there to earlier this year, the transportation-oriented apartment project unanimously approved by this board at 8610 Niles Center Road, adjacent to Skokie Swift. In between those times, he became a well-known financial expert with 15 years at Heitman Mortgage and his own company, Basic Financial. As a developer, he acquired and retrofitted almost 5,000 residential units, rehabilitated over 500,000 square feet of retail. And as you can see on this project, he both co-ventured the Gold Coast Galleria, which is a mixed-use residential and retail building featuring Dave & Buster's, many of you may know, in Chicago, and also converted 613 residential units in Washington, D.C. with Jupiter Corporation and Jerry Wexler. His commitment to this project in my mind, is rather unique, and I think it's sort of what I always like to see in clients, what you believe as a community like to see, which is that from his commitment to sustainability, and a reminder this project was done before you even had a proposed sustainability ordinance, he made this commitment to build a sustainable project, which Mike will be talking about, and to his willingness to expend a great deal of time, effort, and cost to try to work to address some of the issues raised by the community and by the staff. Do you feel? I don't want to press that. Good, down. Okay. So just get a sense of how we got here. Again, since February of 2022, and obviously we were looking at the property before that, but that's sort of when we started project due diligence. Since then, a great deal of work with staff, 4 appearance commission meetings, 2 plan commission meetings, and 3 community meetings brought us to where we are today. And I want to take the opportunity, I think many people know that there's been a lot of discussion of this project, a lot of work on it. I really do want to compliment your staff, your appearance commission, your plan commission, and those members of the community who chose to be a part of the process and to help us by giving us what their concerns were and are addressing when we can. This was not easily earned, that unanimous recommendation of approval by the plan commission or unanimous approval by the appearance commission. As you can imagine from the number of meetings there. In addition to all those meetings, we also had numerous meetings and calls with other members of the community and with your staff. To sort of eke out where we were on that, and we'll go into more details. A lot of this is to give you a sense of what's going on to bring us here today. But that project that we started off with in June, which was a 5-story apartment buildings and townhomes, designed and submitted in accordance with your ordinances. After we heard hours of testimony and hours of discussion with the Appearance Commission, we went back and tried to find out how and if we could make this an economically viable project, and try to address some of those issues. Literally went through a full design process in a 5-story building, then a 4-story building, then a 3-story building, each time working with your staff on those designs, each time with our architectural team, with our engineers, to see whether we can make that work. And a lot of give and take with the owner of the property. Barry Crown has been a part of this community for 50 years. After both the developer and the seller agreed to lose some of the economic value of the project, we turned it into an all-town home development, worked with the staff to make sure we met your requirements to do that, and presented it to the community at our first meeting. It obviously would have been easier to walk into that first community meeting with a 5-story building and then miraculously come in the next week with our approval of an all-town home development, but we're a pretty straightforward group, and we couldn't do that without knowing that it worked. And once we knew that it worked, we wanted to be straightforward and bring in what we had there. I think that that project, as a result, caused the Plan Commission to unanimously recommend approval of this project. We had individual community meetings since then, which I'll walk through, where we talked about the appearance and had the community, again, rather uniquely, help us to design the exterior appearance of the buildings. And after 2 appearance commission meetings, we resulted in a project which certainly was a mix of both the community's desires on that, some very strong recommendations from the appearance commission, as you'll see, and all of which led to the unanimous recommendation of approval from the appearance commission. So just to give you, and I'm going to go through these quickly, just to give you some sense of the project, originally 158 units, 2 5-story apartment buildings, 38 townhomes, a density of 40.3 units per acre. By the way, at that point, still lower in density than the surrounding multifamily projects near us, and allowable with rezoning of the project as we talked. Even at that point, we met all traffic requirements and met all the village's parking requirements. Staff did a significant review, as you know, from this project, and recommended approval that we had met all your requirements. Appearance Commission wanted us to be continued for additional testimony and information, and the community was very clear. They wanted to see a reduction in the height and density, more open space, and a reduction in roadway impacts on Kilpatrick and Kenton Avenue. Additionally, there are concerns about the number of townhomes facing single-family homes to the north. So we went back, we reduced the number of townhomes facing the north. Originally 26 townhomes facing those 8 homes to the north. I'm sorry, we reduced it from 26 to 8 homes, 8 townhomes, actually less than the number of homes they face. Similarly, we reduced those original 4 curb cuts down to just 2 curb cuts to reduce the impact on the roads to the east and the west of the community. And again, as was mentioned by the staff, and we'll get into, that's notwithstanding the fact that this is a dramatic reduction from the current, the impact of the school on those roadways. Again, this project once again continues to meet all of your requirements. Parents Commission asked us to try to further reduce the massing and to meet with the community. Community once again expressed their desire for reductions in height, density, and more open space, and made it clear, some of them, that they did not accept the villages or the national standards on traffic and parking concerns. So rather than going through all those different plans we submitted, as I discussed before, we spent almost, I think, a little more than 5 months working with designers, with the village staff, trying to meet all of those requests and requirements, going from that 4-story building to the 3-story building. Each time a larger reduction in the number of units, the number that were there, and really came to a heart-to-heart and recognized that we weren't sure that any multifamily project here was going to be appreciated by the community, even though we're surrounded by multifamily homes to the south. And we decided to eliminate all multifamily buildings here. Clearly, an economic impact on us could only have happened if because the seller was also willing to take some of that hit. We limited the projects to townhomes only. So the project that we presented, as I said, removed all multifamily. This is what was presented to the Planning Commission in September. Also presented to that first community meeting. We reduced the total units from 158 to 68. We reduced the density from 40.3 to 17.3 units per acre. Again, recognizing that many of our surrounding projects, multifamily projects, are at 50 units per acre or more. Dropped the height from 60 feet down to 32 feet. And as the chair said, one of the issues that was raised was a concern that if this was rezoned, that in that R1 section you could have multifamily, you could have the other use that allowed in R4. So we voluntarily offered to put a deed restriction on the property that would not allow any use in R4 that's not allowed in R1 on that R1 portion. We also reduced the impervious surfaces, although by putting in the impervious pavers, you see them in the sort of light brown there. We were still at that point, as we said, needing a zoning waiver to allow us to have the amount of impervious surface that was there. We also, and I'm going to let Mike discuss this one, also made some changes to the electrical vehicle amenities on the site, and again, still met all the traffic and parking requirements. And by the way, with another request is for us to modify the height of the fence, which we did from 5 feet to 6 feet. Staff recommended approval, and we're very proud that the Plan Commission unanimously recommended approval of the entire project. We then went back to the Appearance Commission, because in those initial Appearance Commission meetings, it was clear that the real issues there were the massing and the density. So we went back, after we had modified that density, if we had the Plan Commission's recommendation on it. We made some, as I mentioned at that second community meeting, we had literally walked through with them and said, here's what the elevations look like. We've already dropped this as far as we can drop it. Again, more than any project I'm aware of in my history in Skokie, that 57% drop. But clearly we're open to looking at other methods of doing the elevations. We walked through, got lots of recommendations, what people liked, what they didn't like, how they wanted to see it changed. We also increased the open space, which was one of the requests, by removing the clubhouse, that's in the green area there in the middle, walked through how we had done the impervious surface areas, reduced the paved areas, and confirmed the quality of the fencing and lighting on the property. As a result of all those changes, we brought those revised elevations, which Mike will show you, into the Appearance Commission. We also brought in, because as everyone does, we work with your staff. They had some of their own vision for it. We had, and they knew the community's vision for it. And when the Appearance Commission saw them, they asked us to see what we had actually discussed with the community. They liked a lot of those changes, reinstated a number of them, and added a number of their own, which Mike will talk about. And that's why we've got some of these pallets here in front of you with materials. And again, very pleased that after 4 meetings, we received their unanimous recommendation of approval. I'm going to turn it over to Mike to talk a little bit about where we are in the architecture.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening. My name is Mike Durellen. I'm the principal at Fitzgerald Associates Architects. Happy to be here tonight to talk about 4600 Main Street. This is our final design site plan. This design includes 68 townhomes, a mix of 2 and 3 bedroom townhomes that allow for different demographics to live here, as it will create both 2 and 3 bedroom type townhouse apartments. There's 2 electric vehicle charging stations in the visitor parking area, in addition to being EV charging ready inside each of the townhomes. There's 3 different open spaces. There's pervious pavement that Mark alluded to that's indicated in the light brown that helps with stormwater management. It helps us meet our 65% impervious requirement. We're using native plants, and we have 22 guest parking spaces, the required amount, in addition to 2-car parking for every townhouse inside each of those townhouses. A sustainable future focuses our design. That's how we think about the work that we do. In creating healthy planets, thriving communities, and nourishing the residents' well-being. These are all important to creating an integrated, thorough design approach, and it's not something that we consider after the fact. Townhouses are great, versatile housing. They offer many different types of ways to live in them, and most importantly, they provide a place of privacy and security since they're single unit occupied units. They offer that, plus the other benefits of living in what could be conceived as a single family home type living without the burdens of ownership, since this will be a rental community. As you can see in our site plan, Main Street is at the bottom, Kilpatrick and Kenton. We have 2 driveways off of the off of each side street, internal circulation throughout the site that serves the rear garages of all of the townhomes, plus pedestrian pathways for visitors and guests to get to the front door of all of the units, whether walking up on Main Street or circulating through the site. There's 3 open spaces. One in the center that Mark mentioned is where we removed the clubhouse, plus small pocket parks both on Kilpatrick and Kenton. We've pulled our townhouses away from the north property line and created a landscape buffer full of trees and new fences that will run the entire length of the north property line. Architecture. It's art is in the eye of the beholder. This is sort of a classic architectural design debate. Should it be contextual, or should it challenge us to something new? In this case, we chose to integrate within the community's context in the architecture rather than landing what could be perceived of as a spaceship in your neighborhood. It's not an easy choice, but one that's really one of trying to fit in and be accepted. Architecture always evokes emotion. It is one of those things that is an art that's in the eye of the beholder. We've brought all of our materials here. They're laid out on the table, and I can describe where each one of them is. We're using clay brick, stone, cement panels, metal siding, as well as some cast stone there. And so where you can see that on each of these, actually do this. The red face brick that you see on the table is the majority of the red face brick. The light face brick that shows here is the light colored face brick that's actually a tan iron spot. It's got a nice rich texture to it with the iron markings that come through when the clay is fired. All of these sit on a base of stone, which is the larger rough cut sample that's at the bottom closest to you. And then the dark brick that's in the middle of those two is used in certain places to create some highlights between some of the windows in various spots along the elevation. The light colored fiber panel, the sort of finished material that's on the far right board, that is a piece of spandrel material that will go between the windows in some of these locations, like here in the red townhouses. The windows are all fiberglass, which are very thermally insulated, high-performing windows with low E glass. The dark metal and the dark stone are used as accents to mark our canopies, the tops of some of the windows, as well as the tops of all the townhouses, to create a composition that reflects the mid-century modern vernacular that is found throughout your community, and it helps to bring this building and put its place on Main Street. Sustainability means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. You can ask, what does sustainability mean to everyone here? And we'll get twice the number of answers that are in the people in the room. But we believe a sustainable future is focused on building performance, the occupant's health, the community's wellness, and leadership to achieve all of these goals that benefit the individual that resides there, the building itself, to give it longevity, and the community as a whole. It's an integrated design approach in our firm. It's not an afterthought. Our focus starts with building performance. It starts with the Green Globe's building performance metrics, which Barry had actually talked to us about before we ever started planning any of the residential communities here that Mark has described earlier. Green Globes is a program that helps us verify during construction that the building meets all of the design intent and performance requirements that we seek to achieve. Those can be code-related requirements based on the International Energy Code. They can be things that we're targeting for reductions in emissions, as well as reductions in water usage. These buildings will use 100% electric residential appliances and have hybrid systems for both heating and domestic hot water. There will be EV charging readiness in all of the townhomes, as I mentioned, and the roofs will be designed to hold PV panels in the future. We will be meeting the highest international energy conservation code requirements that will kick into effect on January 1 in the state of Illinois. Principles of Fitwell, the healthy lifestyle design program, guides us as well. Directs us to use native plants, low VOC materials to create healthy environments indoors, inside the apartments, and use high quality filters in all of our heating and cooling systems to bring out particulates in the air. All of these specific items and the strategies that you see here are things that are integrated into our design, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
Just to finish up with a couple of quick slides and a summary on this. But the first is, as I mentioned, one of the concerns raised was on traffic. In addition to all the site plan changes we made to do that, we went back, the village staff reviewed, KLOA reviewed, we looked at it based on your codes, based on national codes. We meet and exceed all of those codes of the project, 158 total parking spaces. Probably the most significant item out there on this area is that current use has 435 trips in the peak morning hour. The new use is 30 trips in the peak morning hour. It's pretty easy for us to show a reduced impact as a result of that. No surprise by the current trips, it's a school, so it's supposed to be. But this will be a significant reduction in that. We also discovered as part of this a lot of concerns on parking is that many of our neighbors, the multifamily neighbors in particular, and townhome neighbors in that area, have one car per unit, one parking spot per unit. So therefore, they're used to having that level of concern. This project, as required by your current codes, has 2 cars for each of those units. Zoning, we talked about this a lot, but townhomes act as a transition between multifamily, you know that. You can already see it in the design of so many areas in Skokie, including adjacent properties near us, where those townhomes act as that transition. And I talked before about the restriction on the uses for the R1 portion. And just real quick on this, just to get a real sense of the difference, just looking at where we were, and again, remembering, we submitted that with looking at your codes, et cetera, what we could have submitted for on this, 158 units, it's what we did submit for, 158 units, 40.3 units per acre, 5-story multifamily apartments at 60 feet, and our final proposal of 68 units, 17.3 units per acre, and only townhomes at 32 feet. That's a 57% reduction in units in density. And again, very unique and something we're proud of and we believe is why we've gotten the level of support we have. I've already talked about all the meetings, I'm not gonna repeat that, but it is important is how we got here. It's the willingness of both the seller and a developer to expend the time, money, and efforts to do that. The changes in townhome elevations, as the Appearance Commission pushed us for, to bring in all the stone, all the brick, et cetera, that are there. This is a truly high-quality addition that we believe will benefit the village, the community, and the new residents in Skokie who will call this home. And again, as a result, unanimously supported by your Plan Commission and the Appearance Commission. I want to close up. One of the issues that we had early on was some concerns about neighborhood, what will this really look like? There was a video done by some of the neighbors, but without the sort of technology and time and money that can be spent by the architects. So our architectural team literally went out, counted every tree in the area to create this to give you a good sense. I do want to tell you, this is, because we don't want to present new evidence, this is what was submitted to Plan Commission. Therefore, some of the final changes are not on this. As an example, you can see that in the middle there you still have the clubhouse, but for the purposes of this meeting, it gives you a really good sense of what's there.
This will move very quickly. It is annotated at the bottom as to where you're looking, so I'm not gonna try and keep up with that. I'll let you read along and I'll try to describe where you're starting. So we're starting at an aerial, and then we're gonna drop in on Main Street and move from west to east. And as Mark said, this is what was presented to Plan Commission, which is why the architecture of the townhomes is slightly different than what we showed you earlier. The trees that we're moving through outside of the properties, the subject property, are all the ones that we documented as existing. This is one of the two pocket parks on the two side streets, on Kilpatrick and Kenton. This is the clubhouse that's been removed. That's now all open green space. The guest parking is shown still remains. The wood fence enclosures are for trash.
With that, we will close our presentation. We're of course available for any questions you may have. Appreciate the opportunity. If there are questions or comments from the community, be able to come back up and respond to those whenever you'd like us to do so.
Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a matter of public policy. This is not a sporting event. No booing, no applauding. We all want to be heard and have an opportunity to express ourselves, so please no outbursts. Let's go this way and then we'll wrap around. Any comments or questions?
I just had a couple of questions. This is probably better for Ms. Knight. Just curious to know, what's the current housing stock for townhomes in the village? Do we know?
What's allowed under R4, or
Just kind of what do we have, like in our current housing stock?
I couldn't give you a number count, but we have a variety of townhomes that are closer to our downtown, live work style, or we have even more dense things that you might find along Church Street, or one that comes to mind is near Village Crossing. There's some townhome developments there, so they're smattered around. It's a nice way for people to live. Maybe might want a community, but they want more of a single family home read. You have front doors, back doors that open to the outside. So as a older inner ring suburb, that's a style of housing that was popular at various points in the past 50 to 100 years.
Thanks. Trustee Sucker?
And the 3 stories that it is now is comparable to the other townhomes in that neighborhood, correct? Like the ones across the street, are they 3 stories?
Yes. I mean, they're 3 stories. There's a little bit different in height, but they're generally, yes. They're to the block south. There's also taller multifamily buildings in the block south of there. So the general neighborhood.
Okay.
In further R4 neighborhoods.
And then I had a question about, I don't know who this would go to, about the deed with the approved change. How does that work?
Oh, I actually do a lot of deed restriction work, but we would submit a deed restriction, and we call it generically deed restriction. It doesn't have to be on the deed we buy the property from. It's just a restriction that would be recorded against the property that would identify that have a legal description of the former R1 property, would identify that the following uses, which are identified in your R4, are not permitted on here. Luke went through them, but it's multifamily, it's standalone parking, and senior housing. There's a 4th, but again, whatever those 4 are. And you'd record a restriction that says those are not allowed on this property. The village would be the beneficiary of that restriction, so the property owner couldn't just change it. And obviously, we'd submit it to your staff and your corporation council to review and approve it before it's recorded.
Okay, thank you.
And by the way, I would assume that you would make that a condition of approval, and probably require it as a condition prior to occupancy or building permit, whichever you'd like to do.
Thank you.
Trustee Kuhn?
Hi, I'm not sure you can hear me. I'd like to go back and understand, I recognize that we don't have an inclusionary housing ordinance policy in place today, that you are putting money forth that would allow us to have fee in lieu. What was the thought process in terms of whether or not the property would have on-site affordable housing or offer that fee in lieu?
Honestly, it was in discussion with the community and looking at the project. At the time, you were looking at an ordinance that provided that option for projects of this size to make the payment, and we chose to make that payment. That was back when we actually thought that, or it wouldn't have applied to us because we were in before then, but we were voluntarily offering to make that, and it was one of the options you had in your ordinance, so we used it.
And with the original proposal, was the intent always to make this luxury development
Yes.
for all of the units?
Yeah, I think we identified somewhere in the high threes to $4,000 a month rent on these. Would have been a different development, obviously, if we had built 5 stories of multifamily apartments, you know, a different number, but once you switch to townhomes and the level of quality the community wants to see, that's really where you end up.
Okay. And then can you tell me, I know in the summary you have there the current usage as well as the usage for the reduction in traffic. What's the daily, what would have been the difference in terms of daily traffic versus just looking at the morning hour?
I can see you searching through there real quick. I can pull up the traffic report. It was significant. Admittedly, the one I identified because the morning is the heaviest, but it was multiple hundreds of percent in reduction in traffic. Again, Lou Abunel with Callaway, our traffic engineer.
Good evening. From a daily traffic standpoint, the proposed development will generate about 468 trips in and out, compared to over 1,300 for school. So significant reduction.
Thank you. I missed the video where you point out the guest parking. Do you mind just pointing out to me on the?
All of the guest parking's in 4 different locations. At the ends, next to the 2 pocket parks inside the site, and then surrounding what was the clubhouse in the center of the site.
And then, in terms of the open space, I know there's the pocket park right there in the corner and the open green space. Is there going to be any additional amenities on top of that space, or just going to be an open space for the time being?
For right now, it's programmed as open space. We haven't, we'll get to a point where we design each of the parks.
Okay.
They're intended to be passive.
Okay.
And one of the changes based on meetings with the community was originally those were fenced off to really only be accessible by the development. A number of people in the community asked if we could make those open, so we moved the fence to the inside so that it's there.
Okay.
Comments,
I think that's all I have for
questions?
now. Sorry.
Excuse me?
No, I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
This is more of a comment than a question. Colleagues, you all know that I've been really historically reluctant to support projects that don't have on-site affordable units. And we have just finished a year-long affordable housing study. This project, by my estimations, may be the most unaffordable residential development that has been proposed to us this term. From my understanding, the minimum rent for a 2-bedroom unit in this development would be upwards of $3,700 a month. That is roughly 3 times the median rent of Skokie. And keep in mind that our affordable housing study this year has shown that a majority of Skokie residents are already housing cost burdened. So I think the lack of on-site affordable units in this project is problematic. That's my comment.
Trustee Prisloven.
You keep referring to a fence, and I'm not exactly sure where we're fencing in the property. I haven't been able to
So,
ascertain that.
Where's the mouse? There it is. This sort of reddish line that runs along the black line here at the north face.
Okay.
That's the north. The dark line is the north property line. The brown line is supposed to represent the fence. It's somewhat hard to see. You could see it in the video. It will run the entire length of the north property line.
And what about the east and the west?
No fences.
No fence, and obviously not in the front where I saw the pretty grass and planting, and then there's still parking spaces available on Main Street?
Absolutely. We did not touch those. There's an existing bike lane there as well that remains.
Well, you couldn't, right, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Just, I can't tell what Trustee Klein.
Okay. When I look at these projects, there's certain things that I look at, as you know.
One of the things I look at is the parking. Can't fight it here. Look at the density. The setback. And they've already decided to contribute to the fund for affordable housing. So I really have nothing to add or ask.
Is there anybody who would like to comment from?
Actually, I do want to ask.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're talking about this fund for affordable housing. Given that we did not approve the home renovation grant in November, the program, and that we have not yet established a land trust, how would this $450,000 be used?
Excellent question. I would assume that the board would direct the manager to propose a program for that, and that it would come to the village board for its approval. Or if at some point the board should decide it wants to take up, again, inclusionary zoning, then we could address it at that point. But I think the manager will propose a program for us, and then the board can discuss it and debate it.
Thank you.
Speaking of the inclusionary housing ordinance, I would like to make a motion that we do bring that back to the board, and I think we're in a position to bring that forth at the beginning of the new year. So I would like to request that we bring that back.
Do that separately. I
Okay.
mean, we're taking up this project at the moment.
Okay.
But, and, yes.
Later on, I will happily second this motion.
Yeah. Is there anybody who wishes to address the board regarding this project? Yeah, just, please, just come up to the microphone and give us your name, please.
My name is Susan Phillips. I live at 4609 Elm Terrace. I'm a 35-year resident of Skokie. I raised my kids here, sent them to
Ma'am,
District 69.
ma'am, could you?
Can't hear me. Oh.
I couldn't get your last name.
Okay,
I'm
sorry. My name is Susan Phillips. I live at 4609 Elm Terrace, which is directly north of the property. I'm a 35-year resident of Skokie. I've raised my kids here, sent them to District 69 and 269 schools. I volunteered in the schools, I regularly donate to the local food pantry, I give yearly gift to assist family program, I volunteered with the Skokie Health Department. And while I've not personally made a donation to the caucus party, I have voted for it across the board in every election since I've lived here. I've loved living in Skokie, so I find it particularly disturbing to find out that I'm not relevant. According to Mr. Berman of the Plan Commission, the concerns of the community are not relevant to the decision of the commission. My concerns and the concerns of the 100-plus signers of the petition in opposition to the proposed construction of 4600 Main are not relevant. Personally, I find that kind of insulting. The only concern of the Plan Commission is that the construction meets village codes based on the interpretation of that code by village staff. Meeting code is important, but just because a proposal checks all the boxes doesn't mean it's right for the neighborhood. The developer and his representatives have laid out all the studies and the plans, but they don't live here. What may be fine in one area is not necessarily right in another. The proposed buildings are out of character with the surrounding area and are way too dense. There's just too much packed into that property. Now, I'm not against developing it. It's a valuable piece of property, and I think it should go back into the tax base for the village. But do it in a way that's attractive and fits in with the neighborhood, and give some space to the potential tenants. The current design has the building stacked up so close there's no room to park a car in front of each unit. The roadways between the buildings are 24 feet. That's 2 feet wider than the average two-car garage. A decrease in the overall density would make the development much more appealing and could perhaps also provide additional needed green space. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi there, Ken Marley, 4651 Elm Terrace. Real quick, just piggybacking onto Sue, she described the petition that committee members had put together. We have we have 115 signatures of people who are opposed to the current plan. I'll pass this up to the board. And the board is also in possession of a letter written by the community as well, detailing both the code problems with it and the conformity with surrounding, being harmonious with the surrounding area, problems with that. So real quick.
You just give it to trustee Kuhn, please. Thank you.
All right, so I think a lot of people here are going to talk about personal, emotional problems with the plan as presented. I'm going to raise some code-related concerns with the plan as it's been presented. Is there any way to raise, is that as high as this thing goes?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to blast through a couple of these things real quick then. That's the petitioner's statement that we've got, a townhouse development. That's the Plan Commission. Notice to the community. There's a 68 townhouse residence development, and that they're combining 2 lots into 1. That's the Plan Commission report. 68 townhouse residences. The staff recommended the site plan approval for 68 townhouse residences. The Plan Commission recommended approval of those 68 townhouse residences. Finally, as slightly to the side. Going to the definitions of the village code as well. Family is a building containing 2 or more residential units, except townhouses. Townhouses, 2 or more residential units attached side by side. I think we can all agree that yes, we have collections of buildings with 2 or more residences attached side by side. And again, next piece of information there, the Plan Commission voted unanimously to combine those 2 lots into a single lot at 4,600. There it is, 1 lot, lot number 1. This is where we start to get into some code issues. The general provisions section of the Skokie Village Code imposes a limit on the number of buildings allowed on a lot. Principal buildings shall be located on a lot except in a planned development. The petitioner has not applied for this as a planned development, so they are in violation on the limit on number of buildings allowed on a lot. 12 is more than 1. What's the big deal with that?
Okay, Mr. Marley,
Yes.
the time limit.
My name is Anita Ross, and I'm at 4554 Main. And I'd like to give my 3 minutes back to Ken.
No, that's not, you can address the board, but we don't shift minutes around like that.
With all due respect, Mr. Mayor, we are trying